Okay, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to our deep dive analysis of a story that perfectly captures the absolutely terrifying intersection of folklore and deep-seated psychological guilt. Today, we're unpacking the haunting narrative of the Dow Hill School in Kurseong. We're going to break down the sheer anatomy of a haunting, mapping out exactly how a ghost story is, well, sometimes just a mirror reflecting our own darkest mistakes. So let me ask you this. Would you return to a place that hides your darkest secret? It's a chilling premise, isn't it? And this is the core psychological tension we're about to unpack. Our protagonists aren't just returning to a spooky location. No, they're walking right back into a literal mystery box of trauma that they've spent a decade running away from. Part 1. Return to Dow Hill, a 100-year reunion. Let's set the stage. Our story begins in the misty, forested town of Kurseong, where an official invitation forces two estranged friends to confront their shared past. Notice the massive geographical and emotional distance between our two main characters here. We have Akshat, a filmmaker out in Mumbai, and Kabir, a banker all the way in New York. They haven't spoken in 10 long years. In fact, they had completely deleted each other's contact numbers. Gone. Yet, an email invitation to their childhood school's century brings them both back. When they meet outside those old school gates, there's this strange, forced nostalgia. You know the vibe. They're trying to act like old buddies returning to their gory days, but the atmosphere is just incredibly heavy. Walking through the halls, Akshat's mind is totally flooded with warm nostalgia. The sound of the recess bell, kids running to the canteen. He even peers into a classroom and sees his old teacher giving a lesson to a single student. But then, Kabir abruptly snaps him out of his daydream. When Akshat blinks and looks again, the chilling reality sets in. The classroom is completely dead, abandoned and empty. It's the very first sign that their minds and honestly the school itself are playing tricks on them. The mask of the happy reunion fully drops when the school's principal, Mr. Thapa, announces that the alumni must stay in their old allocated hostel rooms for the next 2 nights. Akshat looks at Kabir, absolutely terrified, and confesses, "I've lived my whole life in fear of having to come back here." I mean, really think about that. Both men moved across the entire world to escape this exact place. They've lived their entire adult lives in sheer terror of returning to these hostile corridors. The dread is palpable. What exactly are they hiding? Part 2. Echoes in the dark. The first night. The alumni are forced into this compulsory overnight stay in a deserted summer holiday hostel. The hushed, eerie tone of the night sets the perfect trap. The clock hits 2:15 a.m. The silence of the Kurseong Mountains is absolutely deafening. Kabir, who is completely unable to sleep in the very room he used to share as a boy, wakes up in the dead of night. He steps out of his room and sneaks into the boys' bathroom to smoke a cigarette and just try to calm his nerves. He's sitting there in the dark, and suddenly a voice echoes from outside the bathroom stalls. It whispers, "Kabir, is that you?" Kabir freezes. He recognizes the voice immediately. It's Akshat. But when Kabir gathers the courage to push the stall door open and look outside, he doesn't find his friend alive and well. Standing right in front of him is the ghastly, dead, reanimated corpse of Akshat. It's a terrifying, logic-defying hallucination that forces Kabir to realize that the horrors of Dow Hill are wide awake. Part 3. The Death Road Curfew. The Rules of Kurseong. By the next morning, the paranoia has fully set in. But to understand why they are so terrified, we really need to understand the geography of this horror story. So the crucial point to remember is that this isn't just a haunted house. It's a cursed ecosystem. Kurseong has very tangible, inescapable rules. You have the century-old Dow Hill School, surrounded by a dense forest, and cutting straight through that forest is the notorious Death Road, a place where locals absolutely refuse to go. Because of this, there is a strict, undeniable curfew. Whether you're a student or a local, you must be indoors before 7 p.m. Breaking this rule has deadly consequences, which makes the events of the afternoon all the more frantic. At 4 p.m., giving in to peer pressure, Akshat, Kabir, and a group of alumni hike out to the old football ground near the forest edge. They try to brush off their fears, claiming they're adults now, but the tension totally shatters when their friend Yash starts panicking. He points into the dense bushes, claiming he sees a body without a head peering back at him. And even more horrifying, they all begin to hear the disembodied sound of laughter echoing through the trees. Realizing it's almost 7 p.m., the group sprints back to the school in sheer panic. But in all the chaos, Akshat gets left behind and finds the main school gates locked. He's stranded, alone as the sun sets. Suddenly, he hears a voice behind him. He turns around to see the ghost of a 16-year-old boy in a school uniform weeping. The boy asks, "Akshat, why didn't you save me?" As Akshat backs away in terror, recognizing the boy is Arjun, the entity violently attacks him. Part 4. A 10-year-old secret. The truth about Arjun. When Kabir eventually finds Akshat bleeding outside the gates, they rush him to the medical room. And it's here, surrounded by their shocked peers, that the mystery box is finally ripped wide open. We finally learn what actually happened 10 years ago. So who exactly was Arjun? He was Akshat and Kabir's best friend, and their old hostel roommate. A genuinely brilliant kid, the reigning student of the year. But just months before their crucial 12th board exams, Arjun started losing his mind. He confided in Principal Thapa that a headless child was calling out to him near the football ground every evening at 8 p.m. Akshat breaks down in the medical room and confesses the dark truth they've hidden for a decade. On the night of Arjun's disappearance, Akshat and Kabir actually saw the headless entity dragging a screaming Arjun away into the dark. Arjun begged for their help, but they ignored him. Why? Because they were jealous of his perfect grades. They wanted to focus on scoring well in their board exams. They callously assumed it was some trick, or honestly, they just didn't care enough to stop studying. They literally watched their best friend be dragged away to be slaughtered. The weight of this confession is absolutely crushing. Principal Thapa, who loved Arjun like a son, is devastated. He delivers this heartbreaking line: "If you had told me that very day, perhaps Arjun would still be alive." It was only after casually mentioning it later that the school staff went searching, only to find Arjun's half-eaten, decapitated body discarded on death road. The guilt that Akshat and Kabir carry is entirely justified, right? Their silence and jealousy were the real murder weapons here. Part 5. The century-old curse. The origins of the horror. Let's zoom out for a second from this deeply personal tragedy to the overarching folklore that binds the Dow Hill school. If we map this cycle of violence on a timeline, it all connects like a giant, terrifying puzzle. Exactly 100 years ago, when the school was first founded, a criminal brutally beheaded a child and threw the head near death road. That original sin birthed a malevolent spirit, a spirit that, 10 years ago, claimed the life of the brightest student, Arjun. And now, in the present day, it's the anchor for a 100-year reunion, trapping everyone in a multi-generational web of horror. So, how does a story like this end? Honestly, with no redemption. Akshat and Kabir try to buy their peace of mind by handing Principal Thapa a massive donation check. But the damage is done. Their peers look at them with absolute disgust, realizing these two men sacrificed their best friend over academic jealousy. Unable to face the shame, Akshat and Kabir flee back to their separate lives. As they drive away, they promise never to speak again, pulling out their phones to delete each other's numbers, returning right back to the cowardly isolation they started in. We've unpacked the guilt, the ghosts, and the grim reality of Kurseong, but I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought. The forests of Dow Hill are breathtakingly beautiful under the sun, but as the shadows lengthen and the clock strikes 7 p.m., who does the night really belong to? Think about that the next time you find yourself near the edge of the woods.